Let's jump right into one of the most fascinating intellectual showdowns of our time. We've got a direct clash between two radically different thinkers. On one side, David Graeber, the late, brilliant anarchist anthropologist. And on the other, Peter Thiel, the famous libertarian billionaire and venture capitalist. They actually sat down to debate a massive, looming question. Why exactly did our technological future stall out? So, let's figure out what went wrong. Okay, let's dive into this. Peter Thiel's venture capital firm literally uses a phrase as their tagline that perfectly sums this up. They promised us flying cars, and all we got was 140 characters. I mean, it perfectly captures that collective disappointment we all feel with the 21st century, right? Instead of some majestic, spacefaring future, we basically just got social media.
So the core mystery of this explainer is actually pretty simple. Where did the future go? Why did those ambitious, sky-high dreams of the mid-20th century completely fail to materialize? Whether you lean left, right, or center, you've probably felt this. We're going to impartially break down how Graeber and Thiel diagnose this exact same problem, yet arrive at totally different solutions.
Here's the roadmap for our intellectual duel today. First up, the broken sci-fi promise. Then, the great stagnation. After that, we'll break down Graeber's view in the bureaucracy trap, followed by Thiel's counterview in the startup escape. And finally, we'll bring it all back together in reclaiming the imagination.
All right, Section 1, the broken sci-fi promise. Expectations versus reality.
David Graeber pointed out that if you grew up in the 1960s, you were handed very specific promises for the year 2000 by highly authoritative voices. Think planetariums, science shows, magazines, all assuring the public of what was to come. We're talking about promises like anti-gravity sleds, teleportation devices, colonies and domes on Mars, robot androids to do your chores, and even immortality drugs. Now, as Graeber notes, people probably didn't think we'd get all of these by the year 2000, but the shocking reality? We didn't get a single one. Not one. Instead, these promises have just kind of been quietly wiped away as a sort of cultural embarrassment.
Moving on to Section 2, the Great Stagnation, a surprising agreement. And here is the fascinating twist. Both the anti-capitalist anarchist and the free market libertarian completely agree that progress just stalled out 40 years ago. And this brilliantly illustrates Thiel's concept of the two tracks of technology. In the world of bits, computers, the internet, software, we've seen this rapid, massive, undeniable progress. But contrast that with the world of atoms, flying cars, new forms of energy, advanced medicine, physical infrastructure. Progress here has been highly, highly limited. The physical world has largely stagnated.
Both men actually point to the 1970s as the pivot point where the future just went off the rails. Let's trace it. In 1970, a war on cancer was declared with these massive hopes of winning by 1976. Well, that didn't happen. Then in 1971, the Texas Railroad Commission ended oil quotas, signaling a terrifying new reality of resource limits. By the mid-70s, a series of global oil shocks severely constrained energy. And by the late 70s, investment aggressively shifted away from space-age, physical tech, and pivoted heavily toward information technology and finance.
This era also marked what Graeber calls the death of the eccentric innovator. He actually shares this wild, almost unbelievable anecdote about Jack Parsons. Parsons was a founder of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a literally brilliant rocket scientist who also happened to be an occultist holding ceremonial magic orgies in his house in the 1950s. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Graeber uses this to highlight a really crucial point. Today's heavily sanitized, risk-averse bureaucracies just no longer tolerate the weird, brilliant, entirely impractical minds that historically drive true world-changing innovation.
Which brings us to Section 3, Graeber's bureaucracy trap, the anarchist's diagnosis. Focusing purely on Graeber's side for a moment, we have to understand the concept of rent extraction. Basically, this is a financial practice where profits are made by controlling existing resources, enforcing debts, or leveraging monopolies, rather than actually producing new technological value. Graeber argues that capitalism fundamentally shifted in the 70s. It stopped making things and started extracting wealth through finance. The system essentially decided it was way more profitable to manage risk and debt than to gamble on flying cars.
And this massive risk aversion completely infected academia and research. Graeber breaks down the critique perfectly. Today, academia focuses heavily on self-marketing over bold ideas. Researchers spend the vast majority of their time just competing for incredibly scarce grants. He actually calls it the classic rock phenomenon, an endless recycling of 1970s theories. Because honestly, why take a risk on a totally new idea when you can just play the hits? Bureaucracies actively punish the impractical dreamers. They literally force brilliant people to prove they already know what they're going to discover before they get a single dime.
Graeber passionately believed that human imagination isn't scarce. The ideas are out there. As he puts it, the overwhelming majority of those people go around every day being told to shut up. And this is why this matters so much. To Graeber, the system of organized bribery and massive debt actively suppresses the infinite creativity of the general public. It's the heartbreaking idea that the next Einstein or Marie Curie is currently stuck at a desk doing administrative paperwork.
All right, Section 4, Thiel's Startup Escape, the billionaire's diagnosis.
So let's transition neutrally over to Thiel's counter-perspective. Thiel totally agrees that the bureaucracy is stifling, but he completely rejects the idea of trying to fix it from the inside. Why? Well, the crucial point is this 56% figure. Over half of basic research is still government-funded. To Thiel, government agencies are far too slow, heavily regulated, and constrained by politics to ever achieve radical goals. You just aren't going to get to Mars by filling out government grant forms in triplicate.
Instead, Thiel offers an explicit, step-by-step methodology for circumventing this exact stagnation. Number 1, start acting as though you are already free. Number 2, build a small team. And crucially, don't hire lawyers initially, because they'll just tell you what you can't do. Number 3, break the rules and build the system. And number 4, ask for forgiveness, not permission. Thiel uses his own experience founding PayPal to show that escaping the bureaucracy entirely and building a startup is, in his view, the only practical way to actually build the future today.
This perfectly contrasts Thiel's bias for immediate action by small groups against Graeber's desire for egalitarian mass movements. Thiel argues, and I quote, "You don't get to Mars by having endless debates. A complex technological society, in Thiel's view, absolutely requires tight coordination, clear leadership, and a hierarchy to get massive physical projects off the ground. You simply cannot vote on every single engineering decision."
Which leads us to our final section, Section 5, Reclaiming the Imagination, How We Fix the Future. Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is what happens when we put their ultimate solutions side by side. For David Graeber, the ideal scale is decentralized, egalitarian mass movements. His core method is something like universal basic income, basically removing financial stress to unleash collective, everyday human creativity. Now, for Peter Thiel, the ideal scale is small, hierarchical, highly coordinated startups. His core method? Taking incredibly talented individuals and having them escape the system to build independently.
You can really see this difference in the metaphors they use. On one side, Graeber wants to unleash the masses by removing their financial chains. He believes you absolutely have to change the fundamental economic reality first. On the flip side, Thiel views the current system like Alcatraz. He tells this amazing story about his time at a corporate law firm where everyone inside desperately wanted to leave, but felt completely trapped. Thiel's realization? The door isn't locked. You just have to walk right out the front door of the prison. So, to summarize the core friction we've explored in this explainer, both Graeber and Thiel share a profound, deep-seated disdain for political classes and technocrats. They mutually believe that the future isn't just some fixed law of nature, we are not stuck here. But the real tension lies in the execution. Graeber argues we need a massive social revolution to free everyone's imagination. Thiel argues we just need a cultural one, where capable people simply choose to act and build. It's this profound ongoing debate between the crushing reality of systemic scarcity versus the totally untapped potential of infinite human imagination.
Which brings us to our final question to leave you with today. Will the future be won by fixing the system or by escaping it? It's a massive choice about human nature and how change actually happens in the real world. Graeber and Thiel might profoundly disagree on the exact method, but they leave us with a vital challenge. The future won't build itself. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.